1200 WOAI. This is Sidebar with former Bexar County DA Nico Jorge, trial lawyer, managing partner of the LaHood Norton Law Group, and George Araujo, scholar, former chemist and pharmaceutical researcher and director. And yes, there was a few things that we're going to talk about this week when it comes to the national news, like the VP debate. And some people are asking, how did you say that J.D. Vance won that debate? And that was funny. And then we also need to talk about what's happening with these hurricane victims. There's all kinds of rumors going on that FEMA has spent their money, and FEMA's come, of course, forward to say that's all lies. But before we start, you know me, I'm such a case junkie, when it comes to your stuff that's going on, Nico, and you had a huge thing go on this week, and that was reversal and acquittal of Michelle Barrientos Vela, but I need to know the details because I've been checked out all week.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Look, went to the 8th Court of Criminal Appeals. The 8th Court didn't what we call reverse and remand that case. Michelle Barrientos Vela was the constable. And it was a big trial. It was a 3-week trial. Many people that watched the trial, and I'm not going to say this in a prideful way. I'm just saying that it was live streamed.
I watched it.
You watched it. I mean, everyone said, man, there's no case. You guys won. It was, then the jury came back an opposite verdict.
Right.
It was surprising to a lot of people. This just vindicates what we all saw, what you saw, what we knew from the beginning. And, sometimes, although I respect the jury process tremendously, but sometimes they get it wrong. Mm-hmm. And so what was important about this ruling, they didn't reverse and remand. They didn't say reverse this and remand it back to a lower court to try it again. That would be, you'd retry the case, which we would be happy to do, and I think we'd be successful in that. They said that it was a legal sufficiency of the evidence claim. So they were saying that essentially no rational jury would have convicted on this level of evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So they were agreeing with us in our arguments on closing throughout the theme of the trial. And what we were saying from the beginning, it's much more rare than a reverse and remand. They're actually saying this is an acquittal, as if we would have gone before a trial judge moving for a directed verdict, and the judge would have agreed and directed the jury to come back with a verdict. So this essentially was a process crime. One of the things they said in the ruling, in the opinion, was this information, this evidence that you're claiming she tried to conceal was on a clerk's desk, which is a point we made up. In a purple folder on the clerk's desk, you're doing a real crappy job of concealing evidence if that's what you're being convicted of. And so it was really this manufacturing of a crime, unfortunately, by the DA's office because of political disputes and things of this nature. And then the Texas Rangers as a whole, I think, is a good organization, but this specific Texas Ranger who ended up getting in trouble by the court and fined because his behavior in trial was actually fined and disciplined.
So it's not that the conclusions that were derived from the evidence were poor, but that the evidence itself just simply wasn't there.
Both. Because if no evidence is there, then your conclusions from the evidence are going to be poor.
Sure.
Crap in, crap out.
Yeah.
I mean, so if there's no evidence, then you can't conclude that. If there's no evidence to support the verdict, then you can't conclude that there was a crime here. And so that's what
Except if you're Trump.
Well, if you're local, yeah. I'm not comparing Michelle to Trump.
No, but this kind of information, when you're talking about it, if people don't know about this case, that's the first thing that came to my mind. You're like, well, the evidence wasn't there, but we still got.
Yeah, you can actually go back. I think KSET still has it on their website.
Yeah, but if I'm the prosecutor, I'd rather have a situation where there's evidence, but maybe the conclusions from the evidence aren't what I think it was, versus
acquittal.
There's no evidence.
There's an acquittal.
There's just nowhere to go. It seems like there's nowhere to go.
It doesn't happen all the time. It's a big win. It's obviously she was emotional. She's been through a lot, her and her family. People, like I tell people, whether you like someone's personality, here's the example.
That's what it was all about.
Or not, unfortunately it was. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people in the media they're eating crow right now because of the stuff they said about her and the way that we believe they actually influenced the jury here locally. She was very much publicized, and whether you like her style of leadership or lack thereof or whatever you want to say, or being a jerk or whatever, it's not a crime to be a jerk if you think that's what the situation was. Well, no, not really, because then be careful.
Jails will be
guilty probably. But I'm just saying, it was a big win. I mean, obviously we worked very hard on the case. We felt we won the case. You never know until the jury comes back, and this is just vindication.
What was on the line in terms of her future had she lost?
She was facing prison time because it
Jail
was a felony.
time, yeah.
But the judge, Judge Velia Mesa, had already said probation, but there was a 90-day, sanction for jail that was in abeyance until this case came back. So now nothing. I mean, not probation. She's not a convicted felon. I mean, it's a huge deal. It's a big deal. Yeah. And so we're
But
very
I think
pleased
you're right.
with
Putting your future into the hands of the jury, supposedly of your peers, it's tricky because if you have a personality that rubs people the wrong way, the law is the law, but they do take it into consideration because they're human.
And that happens with your trial lawyers as well. There's a likability factor. Now, you're not trying to be likable, but you want to be credible. And so there's a lot of factors that go along when you have a high-profile case like this. I mean, there was actually a news story run the week before the trial that was just... And then, even during jury selection, someone that said, yeah, my wife follows it, or my husband, or my family member, and you're instructed not to look at social media.
Is that prosecutor still working?
No, she's retired. And
good,
this is not... Yeah, well, I mean, it's
That's
unfortunate because...
Nico, somebody said, Chris says, can she run again? Can she get her license reinstated?
Yes, she can if she wants to pursue that. I don't know if she does. But
Mark Foss says, congratulations on the appeal.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. It was a big deal. I mean, Michael Gross worked on the case as well as part of the appellate team. I mean, he said, man, you guys made it easy because you guys tried a very good case. It was very humbling to hear that from Michael. He's an excellent lawyer as well.
My jaw dropped.
So it was a big deal. It was a big deal. So it came in Thursday night. We got the text Thursday night, me and Jason Goss, one of my trial partners, and one of my law partners. And so we were trying to start R-rated Christianity. We're like 30 minutes behind because I did an interview.
That's why I missed it.
Yeah.
I accidentally
fell asleep. We started 30 minutes late. Well, great. We were falling asleep right in the middle of Georgia.
Lots of action. Thank you.
Thanks.
Lots of action on Thursday night.
Hopefully nobody falls asleep this morning. Let's keep them awake.
No, I was
kidding.
waiting. I had it on, but I don't know what happened.
Ray
Suddenly-
Rodriguez says she was tried and convicted by the local media beforehand.
But that is actually true.
That's what
that is actually true.
A lot of personalities. A lot of personalities in that case that had so much factors going
The
on.
first text today is Alamo Talk. Good morning, Alamo Talk. I love having Alamo Talk on.
Yeah, man.
Gilbert Gonzalez, Starling Late,
Thanks, Alamo
tagging
Talk.
somebody else. Thank you for tagging other people to watch this show, and thank you for those people that are following us on X, that have a Facebook, have a YouTube, but are also following us on X. Thank you.
Yeah, guys. Welcome.
So, did anybody watch the vice presidential debate between J.D.
After the
Vance
fact.
and
Yeah.
Tim
Not just
Walz?
anybody, about 43 million people.
I thought it was 60 million.
Those are the Nielsen ratings, but
Nielsen.
maybe that's true.
Yeah.
I don't think we're including people,
After. Yeah.
people who are doing it on the net. I think just in terms of legacy media, network media. But for a vice presidential debate,
It was big. It was almost almost as much as Trump and Harris. It was an interesting
I loved
debate.
it.
I mean, I didn't watch it live. I was with the kids and we were doing all that stuff, and maybe I had a little PTSD from the Trump-Harris debate. I was like, I don't want this to go wrong. I anticipated JD to do well because he had been doing so many just hostile interviews
You're
leading
so
up to
right.
it.
Yeah.
And I think I told George or
They
somebody.
trained him.
Well, I mean,
That
whether
was
they
his
like it or
prep.
not, I mean, that was his. This is why primaries matter in the sense of you need to do debates, you need to do interviews, you need to talk, you need to get questioned, and go back and forth because then you're preparing yourself for the big fight. And this was it. I mean, he was front stage. Walls. We can dissect whatever you want to dissect, but I think a big takeaway here is that J.D. Vance is the future of the Republican Party. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I took from it. I mean, does anyone doubt that he's going to run for president in 2028? And he should.
Yes.
I thought it was. I mean, I hate using the adjective Reagan-esque because I think it's often misused, but I think it came as close as possible in the modern era. I was stunned by it. I really was, because I think that he had such a broad reach as a result of how he composed himself in the debate. Nico and I were chatting back and forth, and I gave him this sort of AAA rating. He was amiable and not likable. I mean, likability's out there as a common synonym for amiability, but they're not the same thing. Somebody can come across likable, but they're rotten at the core. And I don't mean to mention any names, but his initials are Gavin Newsom. So if you think of Newsom, he comes across. If you've seen some of those interviews with Hannity, I mean he comes across pretty likable.
He does it. Whatever
I wouldn't say he's amiable, and I thought Vance came across amiable, genuinely pleasant, genuinely friendly.
Yep.
I thought he also came across authentic. Like
Yeah.
he did. He came across like he was the genuine article.
If you didn't know him before, this was like,
Well,
Yes,
this was his, so to speak, coming out party, really, because he's been doing these interviews, but nobody wants to cover them except these little stations that are these media outlets that do it. But this was his opportunity to redefine himself because he had been just talked. I mean, they just postured him as some weird, mean, cruel, condescending, weird, right? Look at the irony. Ironically, it was Tim Walz that named him weird, and he's the one that came across weird.
Truly.
The knucklehead.
Truly. Yeah, that's a great point. I never thought about that. But on the immediate aftermath of his selection as a running mate by Trump, the media got out there and said that he was weird. And then of course, and even GOP operatives and a bunch of punditry was like, oh my gosh, they were nervous about that. They were worried that the Oppo research from the Democrats were going to confirm that he's somehow mysteriously weird. And all of that, it seems to me, was dismantled.
Yep.
He didn't just come across as I said, amiable and authentic, but also accessible. It seemed like, Nico, he came across like a normal guy. I mean, virtually the opposite of what every politician out there seems to be coming across today, which almost plastic and stilted, almost sort of like shape-shifting to whatever somebody wants them to be. J.D. Vance is just who he is. Nico likes to say people are comfortable in their skin. Yeah. He came across comfortable in his skin, reached into the personal issues, but also had, I think, a real good mastery of the facts. He had those details, sort of in close grasp, and he did it across a number of issues. Boy, I tell you, I thought the GOP fell in love with him.
Check out what Alamo Talk says.
We're going to go to a break,
okay,
but please hold on, because all of those thoughts, and what a balance is to Trump, because this is the guy I think that can come in and make everything even again.
I got something to say about that, yeah.
Good. We're going to continue this conversation coming up next on Sidebar.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
WOAI, this is Sidebar. Back to the VP debate. You're going to say something when I mentioned that J.D. Vance is I think a person that can probably be the only one that would even out Trump's personality.
Well, look, if you like Trump's policies, but you don't like his personality, J.D. Vance is perfect. I mean, he's just really changed people's opinions. When you have punditry on the other side, CNN, MSNBC, complimenting him because they said, man, he came across. I mean, look, you just have to admit, just call it what it is. He did very well. He did excellent, matter of fact. And then when you have, I mean, even I think was it Maddow, she was saying he's just too polished. Well, that means he did well.
Talker, yeah. Right? He's a slick talker.
Translation, he kicked your guy's ass. I mean,
Alamo Talk says Trump will turn on him at some point, and he knows it. What you saw was him distancing himself from Trump politics.
Well, I've heard that. I've heard that criticism before.
What do you mean distancing?
That's actually the opposite. Go ahead, Nico.
Well, here's the deal. So people say that Trump will turn on people if they're disloyal, that he had to say certain things. Look, yes, Trump.
Lie.
Trump. Look, I've criticized the way Trump reacts versus responds to situations where he's got disagreement with people that take a different position on him. But then you also have to look. You don't get to your cake and eat it too. You got to look at Trump. I mean, J.D. Vance attacked him viciously and Trump overlooks things. So as quick as he turns on people, and that is a legitimate concern. Yep. I mean, it's a legitimate criticism. He forgives quick too.
He does.
And so you have to. There's something about his personality that it's an offensiveness, sensitivity, whatever you want to call it, where he turns on people, but then he comes right back and opens arms and welcomes people back into the fold.
That's very insightful about Trump, and he doesn't just forgive them; he brings them into his inner circle.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about Nikki Haley. I mean, how closer, how much
You're
closer
right.
to the inner circle can you
Yeah.
get that she's speaking at the convention, for goodness sakes, after everything that was exchanged between them. But going back to what you said about CNN, I think what CNN literally said and what ABC's Jonathan Karl literally said, I think is important to capture here. J.D. Vance, quote, came to land a bunch of punches, and he did. This is CNN in the aftermath of the debate. Tim Walz simply did not seem prepared for it.
Yeah.
Here's Jonathan Karl from ABC. Quote, I've got to say, Walz did seem unsteady. You think? And frankly, what I saw in Walz is somebody who has not faced questions.
That's it.
He was simply out of practice. J.D. Vance was very smooth. He took the arguments to Kamala Harris. This is from ABC, from Jonathan Karl of all people. But I think that's exactly right. Walz had a simple job. He had to come and inform people about who this candidate was, which remains largely an enigma. I mean, we have a pretty good idea of everything that Kamala Harris is going to do, only because she's going to do what Biden did, only worse. But she hasn't articulated specifically her policies. We know that. That's been a consistent criticism. But Walz didn't really inform. He really didn't. And he didn't build a sense of competency around the ticket. Didn't do that either. I think the opposite is true. And I think you're right, Karen. He did what Trump failed to do. As much as I like Trump in many ways, I mean, we're very critical in that second debate of Trump.
Yeah.
Trump simply didn't deliver the goods in terms of arguing substantively for what he was going to do. And I think that Vance did the job. He did the job that Trump didn't do, and he did it well.
But first of all, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about, I saw a clip.
Am I here to amuse you?
Yeah, you are. Tommy from Goodfellas. What am I going to amuse you? What am I, Joey? What's so funny about me? Am I clown? No, but think about this. So I thought this was one of the best debates. I mean, it kind of brought us back to what a true presidential debate should be like. It was interesting. This is the way it should be. And I guess I take this so personal because when you get into court and you hash it out with whether I was the government at the time, when I was a prosecutor, the DA, or whether I'm a defense attorney, you go at it, you check in and you check out, and you should still be professionalism and decorum and respect. And you can be passionate, not personal. There's a difference. This brought it back to passionate, not personal. I thought it was really, really good.
You saw him at the end when they were talking to each other?
Well, he went straight up to Walz. They got up to it. It was really close. It was genuine. I love that JD said, look, if somehow Governor Walz, and I love that he called him Governor Walz, ends up being the vice president, he'll have my prayers, he'll have my support, anything I do to help him. That's someone who cares more about the country than himself. Yeah. That's when you get outside of tribalism and you worry about Americanism. That's a difference. Both parties used to be like that. It's not like that anymore. The reason I was laughing is because I saw a clip of an interview, and I want to go back and watch the whole interview. I guess Kellyanne Conway interviewed Trump. Did you see that?
Yep.
I didn't.
And he goes, well, they're saying I'm the goat. I'm the goat of the interview. And she's like, she's squirming like, Mr. President, you lost. You got your ass kicked. But whatever, not ass kicked, but you lost. And I'm the goat of debates. Okay. But so that you get what you get with Trump. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, he's got to believe it, and that's fine. We did wonderful. We did great. And she's saying you need to debate her again. She's pushing him to debate her again. What for? It's so late. I don't want to. I don't know if he wants to. She wants to, because I think that is true. That she feels like she's behind, or it's way.
No, that's exactly right.
And he's like, well, I don't want to do that again. So,
but he
I don't
can
know if
easily be put off the track. But when personal stuff comes in, too,
way too easy.
Listen, I'm sorry. Kamala Harris is losing. She really is. And I've not been optimistic about Trump's chances. I've been a realist. I haven't been pessimistic either. But I think she's losing. And I mean, the CNN polls just came out a couple of days ago and said that Trump has a 70% probability of winning the election.
What?
And, I mean,
I didn't see that.
And so they're basically,
wow.
And this is, look, and Nico, you and I were chatting, because Nico said, I wonder how other people felt about this debate, because, we already know what we think. And if you look at it in the aftermath of the debate, a CNN Snap polls that is overweight in Democrats by 5 points came out and said that Vance is the clear victor. Frank Luntz did a 14-person focus group analysis,
right?
And 5 of them before the debate said that they were with Vance. By the time he was done, 12 out of 14 were with Vance. The Washington Post did the same thing with 22.
But 12 out of 14 would vote for him, or just
undecided vote. These are undecided voters.
Because that's the big deal for me. It's not like who won; it's who won and who shifted votes.
Yeah,
that's the end to me.
So yes, let me clarify. Thank you for bringing that up. So 14 undecided voters were made up the focus group. Prior to the debate, 5 of them said they were with Vance. After the debate, 12 of them
I heard
out of
the 12.
14.
Okay, I didn't know what it meant.
The same thing happened with the Washington Post of all places. I even think that they're worse than the New York Times, and I'm setting the bar low here. The Washington Post had a group of 22 such voters, and by the time it was all said and done, 14 of them went for Vance, 8 of them for Walz. You had the punditry saying that Walz did a really good job, and that he came across, again, accessible. This is important. Vance normalized him to such an extent, Nico,
he did great, man.
that I am unconvinced his reach will just be those suburban people that went against Trump if you went, because Trump offended their sensibilities. Or I doubt that his reach is just going to be confined to independent voters that lean Republican. I think his reach is going to be to independent voters who lean Democrat. I think he has the ability to reach those kind of people, Nico, because he came across like he genuinely cared about every single American.
It's very interesting because somebody said that he respected, you heard him, he was respecting the nation, and he was respecting Walz too.
Very much.
A friend of mine who's a hardcore Democrat, he says, bro, I enjoyed that debate, man. That Vance guy, man, that's the best you guys got. He said it like that.
I'm telling
it's the
you.
best you guys got. He says, I kind of like him. But I'm like, what made him say, I like him?
If somebody was going to stay on the couch during the election because they don't like Trump, or they were going to hold their nose, if they were going to hold their, because they're thinking, look, if this is not a real thought, then I don't think you're being honest. You have a 71-year-old candidate that I think he turned, when is his birthday? I don't know, but he's going to be, when he gets out, he's going to be 83. Look, I'm not speaking this over anybody, but you're 78 and, in your 80s when anything can happen.
That's right.
But people are like, I could actually see President Vance. I mean, he's the future.
MJ Martinez says, Walz looked stunned because JD did great.
He did. He really did. And he handled the moderators well. This is what I remember.
Fact-checked them.
But remember, this is what I was advocating last time. Where Trump could have embraced that.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked bad. These moderators weren't as bad as the last one, the last couple. But they weren't the CNN ones either. Jake Tapper and the other one, Bash, even though she's not a good interviewer, she was a good moderator, or better moderator. But you could just see their bias. It was very apparent on the way they were asking questions, the way that they fact-checked him. I'm glad he did that. They didn't know what to do with him. He did it in a way that was
They turned off his mic, is what they did.
They had to do both. They turned off both their mics, but it looked bad. He wasn't trying to interject BS. He was interjecting and responding to something they did. So it's a one-way, kind of punching bag situation they were trying to create for him, and he punched back. But
Richard says Vance captured the middle, even the women's vote.
No,
I think he did
that's
well.
the theory. We don't know that yet, but it seems to be. And I thought the contrast couldn't be any more glaring. I mean, Walz, in fact, came across. Right out of the gate.
Weird.
Do you remember the first question? I mean, we were talking about foreign policy.
Oh, yeah.
And he's sitting there, and I think he mixed up Iran with Israel, and he did it twice. Hardly a grasp of international affairs, and he just seemed unsettled. He seemed very nervous. And I've read a number of pieces that throughout the week he had shared with a bunch of anonymous sources that he was nervous about the debate because he didn't want to let Kamala Harris down. And coming right out of the gate on that, I think he really seemed agitated. I'm not a big fan of the guy. I think I was telling Nico, my sense is that his mannerisms are weird.
Yeah.
Sorry to use that word, but I think it fits. The bulging eye, emotional intensity knob all the way up to 10 constantly. The mannerisms of a Disney mascot. I'm not into that. And I think he's trying to compensate for frankly not having a command of the facts, but also not being an authentic person. I think he lies a lot. He genuinely lies a lot. And he lied a lot during the debate. I mean, it was one thing after another. I think I'd be here all day, but I'm thinking, the first thing that caught my eye, he said taxes wouldn't go up except for the wealthiest of Americans under the Harris economic plan, which shall remain nameless. That's factually untrue. I mean, he went on and on about, what was it? He was talking about the national ban, which everybody knows is false. The idea that Trump and Vance are going to have a national abortion ban. That's patently false. Everybody knows that. When he was talking about immigration, whether he was talking about economics, whatever he was talking about, factually untrue.
But that's what Harris.
Even
that's
being
their
in
move.
Hong Kong, yeah.
Oh, that was his worst answer. That was his worst answer.
Right.
to
Worst
Tiananmen Square.
non-answer.
Well, it was just horrible. His facial expression. I want to know what he was writing. He was writing ferociously, as if he was putting in a thesis paper.
One would think he was writing what Vance was saying, so that he could come back and rebut
that's
him.
a sign of nervousness because he doesn't know where to look. If you look at his body language and you look at his demeanor, and to the moderator's credit, they just kind of sat there and did Jeopardy with him. Like, okay, keep going. You didn't answer this, and that's my answer. And then at the end, I misspoke. Well, that's what you just said at the beginning. I misspoke. I got ahead of myself. Whatever. It was captured in the moment. And I confounded both of them together, and I brought them both together, and I misspoke, and I regret
We should talk a little bit about the knucklehead moment, because we were going back and forth about this, because Nico perceived a composure there, and I was trying to drill down.
After that.
I was trying to drill down to what, I want you to talk about that, because this is about perception. And I said, are you suggesting then that people are going to care more about the fact that, he didn't totally implode than the fact that he just called himself a knucklehead? And that he, in fact, basically admitted, right, I guess that's another word for lying. But even on things that are patently untrue, Nico, by any objective measure are false, the idea that immigration apprehensions are down.
Yeah, that was just ridiculous.
Compared to Trump, that's patently untrue by any objective measure. And so he went on and on and on. These are the kinds of issues that I think voters are saying, sorry, you've crossed the line. No thanks, but no thanks. And so I really think that Vance, we've been talking about expanding the base. I think that happened. I really do. I don't think
it was insignificant. Everyone says, oh, it's an insignificant VP debates. No, I really don't think this is insignificant, because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with Trump, and you're dealing with the personalities, the good and the bad that come with that. You're dealing with the volatility of him. You're dealing with his age, whether you like it or not. And so, no, this is not insignificant. No one's thinking of Walz because Harris is so young. But you are thinking of that with Trump. And so this was not insignificant. I thought it was very significant.
Sid says, anyone who stands in front of the nation claiming to be a knucklehead about things is not someone you want anywhere near the button.
That didn't bother me as much. He's trying to be humble and kind of self-defecating and, whatever that word is, defecating. Maybe defecated on himself. He was so nervous. Deprecating, whatever. He might crap his pants.
I think he might have.
Yeah, he might have, but look at his face.
Hey, we're going to take a break. Please stick with us. We'll be right back with more on Sidebar.
This is News Radio.
right now to the show, but you, if you're not already, can watch the show too by going on to social media.
Valerie says, Nico, you got Waltz mixed up with Biden. Biden is the one who's self-defecating.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, please.
Maybe it's contagious.
Maybe it's a competition.
Well, thank you for watching on the different platforms. Please go to X, follow us on X, like it up, heart it up, and thank you for sharing.
So we're talking about Tim Walz and his not answering the whole question about, well, were you in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square thing?
But that's a factual lie. That's a factual lie, but he does that over and over and over again. Nico and I debate this issue of Trump hyperbolizes, and I mean that literally. It's exaggeration for the purpose of emphasis.
Well,
Trump's
give an
emphasis,
example, because I don't know about the lies that Trump has said. I mean, he exaggerating mean like my beautiful.
Well, I'll give you an
numbers.
example.
Okay, please.
And maybe Nico will have more examples, I promise you, but I'll give you an example. So he lies about rally sizes. Is that a lie, or is he exaggerating? I mean, a lot of people attend his rallies. I think we can all agree
A lot
that.
of people.
So he hyperbolizes. He said, it's the biggest group that ever attended
I see what you're
inauguration
saying.
ever.
That's a lie, brother.
And so
That's a lie.
it's exaggeration.
What's a lie?
It's
A lie is not true.
Okay, then I guess
Exaggerating is the
hyperbole
best.
we'll toss out hyperbole. We'll never use hyperbole again.
No, but brother, it's like someone saying, well, someone committed an assault when they really just hit someone in self-defense. That's a lie. That's not an exaggerating. That's a lie. I mean, it's
let me finish my example.
Okay, go ahead.
So there's 100,000 people at the rally, and Trump says there were 200,000 people at the rally. The point being, there were, ton of people at the rally. Okay, so it's exaggeration. The point is, there were a lot of people at the rally, as opposed to a Joe Biden who has 12 people show up even when Obama's with him. Okay, but there were 50,000 people. No, that's a patent lie. What's the difference? This guy says that during the Biden administration, we actually had less crossings. And we know that we have 12 million people here more than under Trump. We know that. It's such a far distance from the truth that any reasonable person knows that. And so you're clearly lying. You're clearly trying to tell an untruth. The Tiananmen thing, I was there versus I wasn't there.
Exaggeration to me is you're saying, oh, you're the best at what you do. Well, that you're exaggerating. He's really good. He's not the best. Okay, whatever. But because you wouldn't apply this to your life. If someone said, George, I just stole $50,000. I stole $1,000. No, you stole $50,000. And you wouldn't say, I was just exaggerating. You would say, you're an effing liar. You stole $50,000. You're trying to say it's $1,000 to minimize it. You're lying to minimize your exposure. You're lying. So maybe that's just my world and why I look at it.
Sure.
Because exaggerations are.
Isn't it just? There's no malice in it when he's like saying, "This is the biggest."
It's not a malice issue. It's a manipulation issue for anybody.
If there's just as much true as there is untrue, you could qualify it as exaggeration. But when it's not even close, and a reasonable person knows that, then you really got to step back and say, what are you trying to say here?
Well,
so that's what I meant about the rallies.
Other examples, though, like him saying that he fought in wars, and he also has. There have been.
He carried these weapons of war.
His rank when he left the military. These things are black and white. And so that's what I meant about and this is Trump. Trump's always been this way. If you go back to The Apprentice, it's always been that way. That's why I always laugh. He puts his name on everything. He is a constant. He's like an addicted marketer.
Yeah.
That's Trump. And really, I'm sorry, but you could argue that at the heart of marketing is the ability to exaggerate, to accentuate something beyond the actual parameters to make yourself look superior to your competitor. So I'm not saying that lying is a great thing. I'm saying that if lying is no different than hyperbole, then we got to toss one of those terms.
I think it's very case specific and fact specific. That's all.
Mark Maldonado just mentioned something, and it's making me laugh. He says, I'm not voting for a friend of a school shooter knucklehead.
Yeah. Well, he obviously misspoke there. He misspoke. It just showed his nervousness.
Yeah.
He wasn't saying he became friends with school shooters. He became friends with the victims of school shootings, is what he meant to say. It's
and
very
the conservative media made a big deal out of it. And I wish they wouldn't, because everybody knew that it was
don't make up. It's like because you have Trump misspeaks all the time. So we really want to start that as the standard. Look, he misspoke, but I think it would more. I think it more emphasized his level of nervousness. The fact that he was trying to rush through an answer. Yeah. The fact that he was off his game and he misspoke, and the fact that he didn't catch it, I think is a bigger deal too. That he was just so focused on getting to an answer that maybe he try to.
Alex says, I love this show. Alex, thank you for the love and thank you for sharing it. Sid says, Trump is a salesman. That's what they all do. Thank you, PB, for
He's a
live.
salesman?
Yeah, a salesman. Trump.
Who?
Trump.
Okay.
Nonstop.
And who said that?
Sid said that.
Hey, Sid, it occurs to me, I'm a salesman too. I think everybody's a salesman to some extent. I mean, truly, I'm usually selling something, I'm usually trying to persuade people that option A maybe is better than option B. So at some level, Trump is that on steroids. I mean, he's been doing it for 50 years, and I would argue that he does it better than most people. And I think he forgets himself sometimes. I think he forgets that this isn't The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Somebody was mentioning about Trump the other day that he says, he's egotistical, he's narcissistic.
Yeah.
He says, but that's a needed trait that you want in a leader sometimes because they want to win. And they'll do anything to win sometimes. And if he wins, you win.
I don't want him to do anything to win because that's what the other side's trying to do. But I get your point.
Yeah.
What I've seen in demeanor and grit and humility and poise, to me, again, and it's on a much smaller stage, is the El Salvador president, Bukele. That dude is insane. I mean, what he's had to go. I love this. Look, we pray as a cabinet. We pray. Why do you pray? Why not? What do you mean? I need wisdom.
How do you combat evil, he says?
How do you combat evil without praying? This is a spiritual battle. I mean, he's just bold. He's articulate. He's knowledgeable. He's resolute. He's stoic when he needs to be stoic. He's personable when he needs to be personable. To me, what I've seen, again, I have not done a deep dive study on him, but what he's done in El Salvador, going from the murder capital of South America, whatever it was called, to the safest country, and what they've done, and the tourism, he's blessing, being reelected by 85 or 87% of the electorate.
And sending some of them over here. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Hey, there's an argument.
Well, we want to say, somebody was asking a little while ago if you can comment on X. Yes, you can. If you're watching on Twitter, you can also comment. PB for Life is on Twitter. Thank you. PB for Life says Trump is a businessman. So anyway, thank you for commenting.
I still don't. Go ahead.
I have a question. If you could read that comment back, if you said that Trump was both egotistical and narcissistic?
Somebody was saying on one of the commentators on Fox.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think he's narcissistic. I mean, I think he's definitely.
You don't think he's narcissistic?
I don't.
Well, define what
narcissism is a mental disorder.
All about himself.
Let's not forget. Well, but I mean, there's some very harmful implications to that. I mean, tangibly harmful implications. A person who is egotistical is obviously self-promoting. He has a sort of a grandiose view of self-importance. I mean, you could look it up. It's not a mental disorder. You could argue it's a character problem, but a narcissism. Now you're getting to the point where you so love yourself that it's truly 100% about you, to the point where you lack empathy and consideration for others.
Which is Trump has
Trump has empathy for people. I'm sorry. If you look at what he's done during Helene, for instance, that's his impulse.
Yeah.
At rallies, somebody falls down or somebody needs water. Trump wants to help. That is an impulse.
And he did it before being a president too. He did things like that.
I think, George, you nailed it on that. You really did. Narcissism has been overused. We use it all the time. When George is getting down to the clinical diagnosis of it, and Trump clearly has empathy for people when it's a special needs child, when he'll go behind stage, and he's been. I mean, he talks to him. Okay, you can do that, and he does his thing, and he gives, and he's very generous with people. Now you can make the argument maybe because of his egotistical that he wants to do that for attention, but I think there's enough stories out there where he's been doing things for decades behind the scenes without the attention. Yes, he gets attention sometimes. So I agree with you, George, 100%. He is not clinically narcissistic. I think that's just hyperbole.
Nico, would it be accurate to say that Trump, and I'm genuinely interested in your opinion, that Trump really gets off on watching other people do well? I do. I sense that. That's my opinion.
As long as it doesn't trump, no pun intended, his attention. It seems like it, yes.
And so, by definition,
the guy likes attention, and it can be used. I mean, look, every strength taken to an extreme, as we say, it becomes a weakness. Yep. I mean, the guy, look, we need that. He's a battering ram. I've said this many, many times before. Where we're at today, we need a battering ram because the other side is acting as a battering ram, shoving things down our throat, forcing us to do things, taking away the constitutional rights, opening our borders. I mean, this is insane. I mean, we're going to talk about FEMA. I mean, the fact that the immigrants, these illegal aliens, have gotten all the money for disasters for
Pete
America.
Buttigieg says that's a lie.
Well, no, it's not a lie. Then where's the money, Petey? Then where's the money? I mean, someone needs to cross-examine his ass and ask him where the money is. The fact that there's no money, there's been over $1 billion reallocated, taken from FEMA, because the money's got to come from somewhere. No one can just crap the money out. So money's being reallocated, and it's been given and used for illegal aliens. Just period, end of story. That's a fact.
It's a verifiable fact. It's on their website.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
You can go to their
making it up.
website. They have in fiscal year 2023, they spent 364. This is from FEMA's own records. $364 million in fiscal year 2023 and $650 million in 2024 fiscal year. It's part of their shelter and services program to provide humanitarian services to illegal aliens. And this happens after the Department of Homeland Security. Let me just say that slowly. The Department of Homeland Security has been releasing illegal aliens into the interior of the United States. And after that happens, FEMA's, the Federal Emergency Management Administration or agency, correct me on that.
Federal Emergency Management Agency
has been allocating funds from their shelter and services program for illegal aliens. So yeah, $1 billion. Do you think $1 billion would have been really useful in terms of mobilizing goods and services in the aftermath of Helene? You think?
But Mayorkas is such an incompetent. Look, this dude is got to be the worst person that ever served in that position ever. And I'm not
probably the most dangerous communist in the United States.
He's horrible. I mean, he's you want to talk about pathological liar? This guy's a liar. In June, he did an interview and said, "We are prepared for hurricane. We're fully prepared. June, July, August, September. In 3 months, what happened in 3 months, guy? I mean, where's the money? How are we fully prepared in June, knowing hurricane season's not over, by the way, and we're already out of money? Why didn't you go for Congress? I thought that during when they passed for the government to stay open, whatever that supplemental appropriations bill that went through that passed to stay open, they allocated something like $20 billion for contingencies. Okay, where's the 20? But where'd it go? Where are the contingencies? Well, if they're out of money, why isn't he going to Congress and asking for a reappropriation of more money? If he was truly out of money, he's full of crap. He's lying again.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Please stick with us for our last segment on WOAI. We'll have more of Sidebar. Sidebar. Now is the time to find a social media platform because we will continue the conversation, whether it be on X or Facebook,
YouTube. Help us. It helps the program as you like it up and you share it. Thank you.
There are so many strong people that have now surrounded Trump, whether it be Elon Musk or Ron DeSantis or any of these
Governor
people.
Governor Kemp out of Georgia. Big deal. Big deal.
Just a question. Do you think that I don't even know why there are undecided voters still, but do you think him bringing all these people and saying these are going to be a part of my cabinet, do you think that will help people make up their minds on who they're going to vote for?
Well, I've heard people say, so if you like Bobby Kennedy and you support his ideology and that he's got Trump's ear, and he's going to do something, and then you're saying at least someone that represents, it's kind of representative government, someone that represents my ideas and my wants is going to have the ear of the president, and the president respects him. I'm going to have a better chance of getting my ideas that I support and I think will bless more people into this administration. Sure, why wouldn't it? I mean, the other side didn't want him. Look at Tulsi Gabbard. Elon Musk, things of this nature. He's going to be doing. I mean, Vivek's going to be somewhere. That guy's the future too. Between J.D. Vance, Vivek, Byron Donalds, we have a deep bench.
Strong.
But these are not goofy. This stereotypical. This is what a Republican looks like. That's BS. We got to go against that. I mean, the Republican Party is truly inclusive when you think about it.
True.
Not just of ethnicities and skin color and things of that nature and culture, but also of ideas actually. But there's a root base of it. It's freedom. It's free speech. It's Americanism. It's what's best for our country. It's free market capitalism. So there, and then it's ideas that will bless the vast majority and get to go back to our foundation. So the Republican Party has really switched and is really truly inclusive, not just that tagline inclusive. As long as you're included, as long as you agree with me, that's not true inclusion, by the way.
Just a couple of hours ago, Elon Musk posted on X that the level of belligerent government incompetence is staggering. They're about to shut down airspace to regulate private choppers. They're taking, the delivery of Starlink equipment so that they can get them to the hurricane victims. He says they're pushing back with the Trump team. It's not looking good. FEMA is actually showing up and blocking help.
Yeah, that's actually been verified. We've had a number of reports. There's been a bunch of, particularly the one I saw was in Tennessee, the Tennessee Emergency Management Office, where FEMA is not only not doing their job, but they're preventing private organizations from doing it. And they're saying, Pete Buttigieg had a video that said, I don't want to see private drones out there because it might interfere with government operations that are non-existent. They're basically saying, take your stuff and send it to a government office, and then the government office will allocate it to people. Oh, because the government's so efficient. Wait, let me just say that again. I'm going to send my goods to a government office so that then the government, which is not present and doesn't have the resources, by the way, to mobilize people, is going to do what?
I saw a woman on X saying that they had stopped her with her flatbed with a pallet of what do you call it?
Supplies?
Supplies and chainsaws, so that people could actually get out of where they were from, and they stopped and said, "Nope, you're not coming through."
But this is not an earthquake. This is not what the hell just happened. Was that a 4.5 or whatever on the Richter scale? This was a hurricane. Now, of course, you don't know exactly where a hurricane's going to hit, but you have an idea. It's not like they were worried in New York or they weren't worried in California.
We knew at least the day before.
We knew exactly where it was. This was a Category 3. Did it make it to a 4?
Yes.
It was huge. It made it to a 4?
Yes.
It's huge. I mean, this was horrible. It was the second worst hurricane in the last 50 years or whatever it was. This is horrible. So what weren't you? And if you're ready in June, Mayorkas, and then this is in October, this is 3 months later. Where are the resources? This is horrible mismanagement. This is what really, I'm fascinated, worried, shocked, whatever you want to say, that the fact, if it's truly this close in the election, then we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do to educate people about what ideas, outside of labeling them and outside of tribalistic tendencies that we all have, what set of ideas and why are people persuaded by this pain? I don't understand why we're going to show. It's so painful. Look what's going on. We're not even talking about what's happening in Iran and Israel and the lack of leadership there. And we're not even talking about right now, we'll talk about in the after show, how Biden, during an interview, was it last night, just said, asking about the hurricane. Oh, I didn't know what storm you're talking about. What storm you think we're talking about? This is just absolute incompetence. There's no doubt by anybody's objective analysis that President Biden is not running this country.
He says everybody's happy.
Think?
We've talked to everybody.
Everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy.
Who the hell are you talking about?
People aren't happy?
Nobody's happy.
Are you kidding me? Have you checked out Western North Carolina?
No one's happy.
So I want to go back to what Nico said, because I think that's what Americans ought to be thinking about. That this behavior didn't just sort of happen out of nowhere. There are a set of ideas. Show me a behavior and I'll show you a reward system. When I was in corporate, I used to tell my employees that all the time. Show me a behavior and I'll show you a reward system. If you've got a behavior that's far and wide, then there's obviously a sense of incentive there. Something's fueling that. And the reality is that if you look at the head of FEMA, Deanne Criswell, and you look at her director of training, Riley Hurst, if you look at the things that they're doing, and let me just go to their website, and this is, by the way, please check out at the Washington Free Beacon, if you want to know the ideas that Nico's talking about that are driving FEMA, that ultimately lead to the grotesque level of incompetence, please go to their website. Ben Wilson has also produced at the Washington Free Beacon a series of training materials. And these training materials focus on what? What is the basis for providing emergency services in an efficient manner? Answer, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I can't stand that phrase
From their
anymore.
training manual.
That equity, diversity, equity. Go ahead.
No, I want you to hear it. I want you to comment on it.
All right, go ahead.
The equity is the foundation. This is per FEMA. Equity, and according to Deanne Criswell, is the basis for the foundation for disaster relief. It's built right into the FEMA strategic plan. Goal number 1, instill equity as a foundation of emergency management. Those goals have objectives. Objective 1.1, cultivate a FEMA that prioritizes and harnesses a diverse workforce and achieve equitable outcomes for those that we serve. So this is Administrative Criswell saying that she wants to make equity the foundation for emergency management, not effectiveness, not efficiency, not rapidity of providing services to people who are hurting, but equity. Think about that for a moment. I want to go on. Let me read one statement.
All right.
I'll shut up.
Okay, go ahead.
FEMA, right out of their training documents, that the United States, this is the starting premise. The United States is rooted in extreme violence and white supremacy in almost every institution.
This is in FEMA?
Yes. That's exactly right. She says that she made equity a priority and that they held DEI training that says the United States is troubled by extreme violence and riddled with white supremacy across every major institution.
On a governmental website.
Right.
This is not even incompetence. This is deliberate destruction of a country. Look, I just, because there has to be a takeaway. I don't want to be this show or this group of people that just bitches about something and then they don't do. There needs to be next steps to move the needle. I hope and pray that everyone that listens would educate yourself about DEI initiatives and would passionately advocate publicly against it. In private conversations, public conversations, it destroys everything it touches. If anything has a DEI aspect to it, run from it. Period, end of story. Because you're getting a crappy product, ultimately.
Yes.
You're getting, they don't care about you. They don't care. But look at this. Listen to what George just read. I didn't read that, George. I had no idea.
Awful.
How is equity the foundation of emergency management? Now, because if I was cross-examining on this, how does that work out? What does it matter? You think people that are in a storm or in water, who's flying that helicopter up there? Don't send me that ladder. Nope. If there's not a black person or a white person or a Hispanic person, no one gives a crap. They want to be saved. It has nothing to do with equity. It has to do with competence. It has to do with efficiency. It has to do with effectiveness. Those are the E's: effectiveness and efficiency, not equity. That is complete BS. People should run from DEI. It has destroyed everything it's touched. There's a list and a row of dead bodies,
Yes.
It's literally and figuratively,
Yes.
of organizations that have been destroyed because of DEI. I really hope people wake
and
up on this crap.
documented as such. I mean,
God, I hate
in
this
Florida
stuff.
and Georgia and Tennessee and North Carolina, perhaps North Carolina is the worst hit. We're well over 200 people that have lost their lives.
Diverse workforce. I want a competent workforce. I want a dedicated workforce, not a diverse workforce.
And I think that's the rub right there. This is I think, the biggest problem is that people are rewarded on the basis of their identity with some group versus their qualifications. And the amount of harm that this can happen. We're not just we're not talking about a football team. That's bad enough. But take that to areas of significant consequence like this, or even a surgical room, for instance, where you're making decisions on which physicians actually get to operate based on equity versus their qualifications. People are really hurt by this kind of stuff. It's affecting their illegal alien management processes. I mean, I read on there from their training docs that trans migrants of color, this is what they say, are very worried that faith-based religious organizations, when they give them help, they're worried that they're going to be misgendered. This is FEMA. That trans migrants of color are afraid to receive assistance from religious organizations because they're afraid of being misgendered.
I didn't even know that was a category. Trans migrants of color.
There's nothing to even say to that.
What does that even mean? I mean, you just sit there with your hands open saying, what the hell are we talking about? We have lost our ever-loving minds. And I'll say something differently after the show.
But we're saying this because
lost our minds.
Back to your point of ideas. This isn't about just bitching. We're trying to get down to the ideas that drive the organization so that then you can connect the dots. So when we sit here and say, how the hell could this happen? That's how that could happen. That's the priority.
And nobody speaks out against
right.
it. Nobody. Well, but what you'll get everybody voting part. You'll get every Democrat to vote. Joe Manchin is out. I mean, he's going to be gone. There are no Democrat. Very few. I want to be very careful when I say this. I want to be accurate. There are very, very few Democrats that will push back against this. Why? Because then you'll be quote unquote primaried. You're not Democrat enough. You're not in the. Hey, you gotta sign up for all of it. You don't have a look. We want diversity. It's that's only just a sales pitch. We don't really want diversity of ideas. You got to fall in line or you're out. Or we're gonna primary you.
Ask Eric Adams.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he's guilty or not guilty, but he definitely pushed back against the migrant BS. Look, New York spent $6 billion on illegal aliens. $6 billion. And that could have gone towards New Yorkers, Americans that really need that help and assistance. Not dependency. You don't want to be dependent on the government. But if the government's going to assist you for a period of time, you take it, then you build on yourself, and you become successful and dependent on yourself, not the government. But this is horrible. And this DEI, this cancer needs to be rotted out of every aspect, every corporation. I'm almost at the point that, when you research companies, that if someone has a DEI department, don't even support them. I'm that passionate against DEI.
Amen.
But look, we're gonna talk. We're gonna have about 30 more minutes or so, 30, 40 minutes, probably 30 minutes after show. Talk about some other topics. I mean, Jack Smith and this order that was unsealed. We can talk about that. We can maybe answer some questions about the topics that we covered today. And thank you for joining in. If you enjoyed this, share this with someone you think may enjoy this show. And have a very blessed weekend. God bless you.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
We're live.
When it comes to FEMA, and Elon Musk is actually there in the middle of everything, what would be the purpose of them blocking people helping those people, the victims of that hurricane? What would be the point?
Well, I mean, other than making themselves look good because they've had horrible
But
press
they
and it's
have
been well
Elon
deserved.
Musk. They're saying this is what's
Well, that doesn't
happening.
help. Yeah, Elon Musk has said that he has a number of employees, some SpaceX engineers that are on the ground that are reporting to him on what's going on, and he shares that on Twitter. And of course, he has. How many people follow Elon Musk on Twitter? It must be solid. It must be.
I'll check it out.
Millions, I suppose. So that's a huge number of people that he's able to reach. But yeah, that's it.
200 million.
Wow.
What can I say to that? I mean, 200 million people. So word's getting out, Karen. You think?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and that's the problem, Nico. It's like we're not going to do our job, but then we're not going to let you do the job either. And so this is why people are angry, because most Americans, even Americans who suffer through things like this, it's a period of great sadness and loss. But to be this palpably angry at the federal government, this makes what happened with Katrina in terms of palpable anger at administration, I think, seemed like a walk in the park. Because you remember in the aftermath of Katrina, the media just went nuts on George Bush.
Yeah.
And the media is virtually silent on this as it pertains to the Biden administration. You can clearly see the bias. This is a disaster. This is why we keep coming back again to ideas. We can bitch all day long about the symptom, but it didn't get there overnight.
Yep.
It's because ideas have been allowed to get nestled deep within our bureaucracies. And so now this is what people operate on the basis of. So if you want to change it, you got to change those ideas.
But I mean, we all know in this room, and the people that are watching, I'm sure, know that when Trump takes 18-wheelers full of food and supplies, and Elon Musk goes and makes it possible for people to have the internet, none of that is on the news. It's on X, because Elon Musk is the one that's there and reporting it. I just don't see how someone that says they're undecided can still be undecided, looking at this disaster and looking at the victims and them on X saying, no one is here. No one is helping us. FEMA is trying to stop everything. I mean, FEMA is the government, and the government is Biden-Harris. So, is there no play it out to find out who's in charge?
Are you talking about undecided voters?
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's almost religious in nature. I mean, it really is when you think about the cognitive dissonance that has to occur to support. And I don't say this disrespectfully. I mean, I don't know how because you hear people twist things and blame shift. And look, there's some good apologists out there for Biden-Harris, and they have some fact. How do you make a lie believable? You take a little bit of facts and then you distort it. And they have good facts and they have good this, and they can really defend certain situations on blame shifting. But when you look overall, you can't deny the fact that whether you like him or not, just compare 3 years, not 4 years. Let's just forget about COVID for a second. 3 years of Donald Trump and 3 years of Biden-Harris. You're not going to objectively win that. And if you look at the facts, that's why I would like a debate like the way Vance Walls was. I would also like a new platform where these moderators take each candidate one-on-one and you debate the moderator. I'm fine with that. But you got to debate the other side the same way. So those moderators better go at Harris or go at Walls the same way as they go at Trump. And you do these public interviews with the really moderators. And I like that idea. I also like the idea of the town hall meeting where, Trump and Hillary were kind of going back and forth, walking around, talking. They've done that before. I think Romney and Obama did it. They've done that before. I like that style too. I like the formal debate. I like the interview style, but a public interview style.
But Kamala's not going to do that.
Well, I understand, but that's where you challenge people to do, and then you have an empty chair, and then say, "Well, I'll take her time if she doesn't want it." Trump would say. I mean, that's how you flesh out ideas. This whole one-sided fact checking and then inappropriate. You have to ask the same. You have to treat each candidate the same. And until there's consequences to this, meaning voting consequences, meaning viewership consequences to these organizations and these outlets, then they're going to keep doing it because it's a reward system. You're rewarding bad behavior. You're going to continue to get bad behavior. And until people are sick and tired of being sick and tired, they're not going to change. Again, pain's a great motivator. So let's see how much pain our country can take. I hope we're at the end of it. I pray, whether you like Donald Trump or not. And I love how certain pastors, not enough, are handling the voting. I wish more pastors talked about it. Let me tell you, let's talk about something. There's somewhere around 90 million Christians in this country, something like that. I don't know. It's a big amount. somewhere around 40 million of them are not going to vote. 40 million. The last election was determined at 42,000 votes. There's other areas by 1,000 votes. 40 million Christians are not going to vote. That's insane to me. Why? That's. I think you are irresponsible. And if you're looking for a perfect candidate, you're insane. There's only one perfect person that walked this earth, and he's in heaven waiting for me. And it's not me, and it's not Trump, it's not Vance, it's not anybody. It's not definitely not Harris. It's not anybody on either side. You don't look for perfect. Perfect can't be your standard. You look for better. And you look for what is more in line with your ideological advocacy, meaning if you're a Christian, if you're a Hindu, if you're this, if you're whatever ideas you want to advocate, you need to line up with that person. I don't agree with everything that the Republican Party does. That's why I never call myself a Republican. I vote Republican now. Except when it comes to county and district court judges, you got to vote for the candidate. And when it comes to election time, I'll tell you exactly my opinion. You do what you want. There are some great Democrat judges on the bench. Great. And there have been some horrible Republican ones in the past. And so it doesn't really apply overall to when it comes to county and district court judges. That's the meat and potatoes of what runs our courthouse. But that's another topic. So people need to align with their ideas. And then who most closely aligns with it in your policies, and then vote. And that's why we need to advocate for the church.
I want to say one thing, and it's so boring. It's not sexy, but
all right.
You know that I think it's the 7th is the deadline to register to vote. And I keep on thinking that there are so many people, especially here in Bexar County. We always say voter turnout is 13%.
Well, for mayor, for 33.
I know, but that makes me think that there are some people that aren't even registered or who have never voted before.
Oh, yeah.
And you only have until next week to do it. I mean, because early voting, I think, starts like the 21st.
If everybody listening and watching would say, look, I'm going to try to get 10 people registered, and I'm going to try to get 10 people to vote.
A lot of people.
So there's people that aren't registered, and there's people that are registered but don't vote. There's two aspects of it.
Right.
So number one, we got to get people registered, but then there's a huge amount of people that are registered to vote but don't vote.
Never voted.
And it makes no sense to me. Then you can't bitch about it.
Right.
You can't if you're not going to vote, you can't bitch. Let's start that rule. I can't stand the idea where someone can bitch about something and complain, but have no good solution and not do anything about it. Do something about it. Do something reasonable, logical, educational. Educate people. Talk to people about things. Encourage them to vote.
You know, it's always a mystery, and because the data seems to be all over the place, it's going to get better and better as we get closer to election day. But by that time, we're having the election, right? So we are, and it occurs to me, Nico, today is exactly to the month, 30 days from voting, from November 5th.
Wow.
So over the next 30 days, you're going to see a barrage of polls. Excuse me. And so that's the big question right now, Karen. You know, what's it going to come down to? These irregular voters, this mysterious now 4 to 7%, whatever it is. Saw a poll yesterday out of Michigan, of all places. I'm focusing on those places that have been, I mean, clearly Democratic, where a Republican didn't have a snowball's chance in hell. And I'm seeing Harris and Trump tied.
I've seen
that's what I've been focusing on. I'm trying to understand it because it's so bizarre to me, Nico, in Michigan, in Minnesota, in Wisconsin. What the hell is Donald Trump doing within an earshot of the vote there? I mean, in Pennsylvania. And the reality is, if you shake it out on the Electoral College, it seems to be that Kamala Harris needs to win all of those three, for instance, Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Donald Trump just needs to win one. And so this is what I mean. I think that the chances that she will lose are pretty significant. Trump can certainly lose, I promise you, but I think the chances of her losing are very, very real. And this is why I think their internal polling is not good. And you're going to see more and more pushing for that additional debate. And I think Trump understands that. He understands he has nothing to gain, really.
Well, not with the way he performed. You're right.
Well, there's
not
that.
With the way he performed. If it's JD
if it was Vance, yeah, sign him up.
Sign it up.
I agree 100%. Right. So he has, and this is the best debater the world has ever seen, right? Who doesn't want to do a debate?
The GOAT.
And so, I mean, so I think he's doing the right thing in having those interviews. I mean, in having those rallies in deep blue areas. That's the right thing to do, to leave no stone unturned and to go reach people. But this is a bizarre time. It's like, who is that irregular voter? There is indication. Like, for instance, the Michigan poll said that Trump is making significant inroads among 18 to 29-year-olds. That was essentially the backbone of the Obama vote, if you think about it, into 18 to 29-year-olds. Trump in Michigan. So these college-educated suburbanites, I'm really hoping that if he can make inroads into those pockets, it's going to make all the difference in the world. Remember, Trump lost essentially across all the Midwestern swing states by little more than 43,000 votes. Yeah. That's what it came down to.
42, yeah.
So it matters. Every single vote does, in fact, matter. That's why we spent time on this show trying to show the ideas that the other side is coming forth with so that people can be outraged about facts, not just emotionally outraged, but outraged about facts. Because when those things are implemented into policy, it'll hurt your kids. It's going to hurt your kids. This is a generational problem here. And Elon Musk is saying that this is really sort of the election of all time. He doesn't see America, this is a post this week, he doesn't see America coming back from this if Trump loses. I mean, I can't believe a guy who's been largely on the Democrat camp for a long time, Musk, this guy is a fighter in the Trump side right now.
It's very personal for him, though.
It really is.
It's very personal. If you've never heard Elon Musk, he did an interview with Jordan Peterson. I saw this clip where he's talking about transgenderism and the lie and the woke. He hates wokeness. He hates it. I mean, and I get it, man. It's very personal to him that at the time he was lied to and said that if he didn't endorse or support his son getting transition surgery, that he would have been in danger. And he was ignorant back then to it. He was very ignorant. He was impressionable. He believed it. He was all in. And he said, I don't know where his son is now, but because my son is dead. It gets very. I mean, it's a really insightful, because you have to think, what's motivating this dude? This guy can ride off into the sunset, be a billionaire, no matter what's going on in the world. He can make a bunker like Zuckerberg did, and Zuckerberg made some, I don't know how many $1 million bunker where he could live in there for years and has food and this and energy and all that's safe, and it's amazing what he can do. Musk can do the same thing. He could completely separate himself from society. He can be and go off and live his money, and then actually he could side up. He could team up with the side where he's going to get more money, the electric car side, the non-fossil fuel side. He could, he would make even more money. But this guy's putting it all. I think we're going to look back in history. Yes. We're going to look back in history. Well, I'll be in heaven by this time, God willing. But we'll look off in history, and say Elon Musk served a pivotal role in free speech and saving this country.
I think
a true patriot, and was prepared to sacrifice it all, essentially, because he doesn't care about and he is tough as nails. He's told, watch your ears. He's told people to fuck themselves. He has told them all. He has said it, and good for him. And it's very personal. And when I heard that interview, it made sense to me. He said, I get it. There are some things worth everything, and your children are worth everything. And if they're not, then you ain't worth the shit. So the fact that this is about my children, it's worth everything. That's why I get so mad and frustrated when Trump screwed up the debate. And I know some of our listeners who listen loyally, thank you. I guess this is the shit on Trump show a few weeks ago. Yeah, it was, because there's too much at stake. There's no room for error. It's like 300, give nothing but take everything. We can't give anything right now. And the fact that it's so quote unquote close, whether it really is or not, I don't know. But it shouldn't be that close. Now, the thing that's nice is that I think in real clear politics, Trump's behind like 2 points nationally. When he won in 2016, he was behind 5 points or something like that. I like those type of trends. I like looking at that, which means that they were wrong and that is a signaling of something. I like that. But in even real clear politics, he should be up by 5 points, if not more, meaning that he should really be up by. This should be a trouncing in November. It really should.
It really should.
It reflects where the country is as a culture, meaning the way we do things, and our ideas and our moral compass has really gone off the edge, or it's a reflection, whether you like it or not, of Trump's personality that really is divisive. As much as people love him, that there's a group of people that hate him, and there's people that are just tired of him. I get it. But regardless, he's the horse we're riding in on. So in 1 month, I'm going to vote for him. I'm advocating people to vote for him, consider him, and look past him, look at the policies, look at J.D. Vance and people like that, and Vivek and Tim Scott, and other people, and Byron Donalds as the future, Marco Rubio, we have Ron DeSantis. We have such a deep bench. Ron, by the way, I'm sorry I'm on this tangent, has done such a wonderful job in Florida. I mean, once he got, he's just so he's more comfortable in his skin. He's looking more presidential today than I've ever seen him. I mean, just the way he does, the way he's just resolute, he's logical. I mean, he's stepping up, in Florida to help out North Carolina. So we just have a lot to be hopeful for, but we have a lot of work to do to educate people, not to isolate them, not to call them names, not that when someone, and there's some Republicans that irritate the living dog shit out of me, that if somebody comes over from the Democrat side, oh, you're a rhino, oh, you're this, or you're not, go fuck yourself. I mean, there's nothing way to say that. Either we want to win or not. We're trying to change votes. We're trying to change minds. We're trying to bring people over. We're trying to get them to, so we say, hey, I'm right. Hey, you know what? You were right. You're not saying I'm right enough. I mean, no, I don't believe you. What are we doing? And we were playing a stupid ass game. Now, that's not everybody. That's a small little group of little whatever they are that irritate me, that should just either go away and just be quiet or get in the fight and persuade people, welcome them over. Welcome them over and then encourage them to welcome other people that they know in their sphere of influence. Talk about multi-level marketing. That's how you do it. So sorry for the rant, but there's too much at stake here. Our children's future is at stake. And if you don't give a crap about yourself, give a crap about your kids and your grandkids. And that's why we have to be more strategic and logical.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits, I think Sidebar, this show, just a shameless self-plug here for the show, Nico. I think a value that we bring is that we really, I don't think that we fall into any camp. I mean, we're conservatives, but we explain why we're conservatives, and it comes down to claims, not party. And it just so happens at this point in history that the Republican Party, their platform of ideas lines up best with our claims about the things that matter. If it was the Democrat Party, then guess what? We'd be voting Democrat. It's real straightforward. And so I have an aversion. I've said for years, an autoimmune response to propaganda, the sense that I'm being controlled. There's a book out there by Craig Goschel. It's called Winning the War in Your Mind. And he talks about this notion of cognitive bias. And you talk about it too. It's the idea of coming to the table with this predetermined view about everything, so that you're literally, and nobody can talk to you in terms of you're unpersuadable. Even if the facts say that your present position is flawed, you're unpersuadable. That's a dangerous place to live. I think Elon Musk understands something about that. You can see that thread in a lot of his posts, and I sympathize with that. I get it, because that can be very destructive. We tend to listen to people who agree with us, and we tend to shun those who disagree with us. And we try real hard in this show to make sure that we're not falling into that type of thinking, because that will not help us. Look, that isn't going to help those undecided voters. That type of thinking isn't going to help them. These are people who are about to make a decision based on reality, on pain points, as I call it, economic pain points. Legitimate concerns about illegal immigration. No, not because they're racist, but because they don't want their culture erased, because they don't want their language erased, because they don't want the way they do business erased or how they raise their kids. They want a future for their children. They've invested heavily in this country. The country's theirs. It doesn't belong to people who just feel like they can come in without permission. And who the hell said that they could come in without permission? Well, the federal government did. Well, did we want the federal government to do that? No, we didn't. We didn't give them permission. So these people are voting on real life issues. We need to have a real conversation about those issues. We got to watch the propaganda. So in this show, we try to really get down to the facts. And if it pulls away from Trump, it pulls away from Trump. If it aligns with Trump, it aligns with Trump. Go where the truth is, wherever dark place it may be. Follow the truth.
Well, you're going to hear it first here. Speaking about pain points, George, that was excellent. And about illegal immigration. I just got a text message from a buddy of mine that used to be on SAPD SWAT, and he's real involved in law enforcement. And he said that this morning, ICE, SAPD, Bexar County Sheriff's Office, and other law enforcement hit an apartment off of Isom and Sahara to take it back from illegal Venezuelans in San Antonio, Texas. Be ready. Get ready. It's here. You want it? It's not Colorado. We can't. It's here. And so when you vote, when you vote for local leaders, when you vote for county commissioner, when you vote for city council, for mayor, for DA, for sheriff coming up, for the sheriff race coming up, for all this stuff, off of Isom and Sahara this morning to take it back from the illegal Venezuelan gangs in San Antonio, Texas. And these gangs don't give two shits. They don't care. And it wasn't about gun control because they're illegal. They're illegal people and they're criminals and they still have guns. It's not going to matter. That's why I'm so
it didn't
passionate.
happen in 2 weeks.
Nope.
This has been going on forever, and it's been a warning.
It's not about guns. It's about who has the guns. It's about the heart. It's about order, and it's happening here in San Antonio, Texas. Did we think we're going to be immune? Just go to San Pedro. This is attack. This is whether it's the mayor, remember, whatever it is. I mean, our votes matter. It's about these ideas. I love that you said it's about these claims we're making, and it's about pain points we're willing to put up with, and that's bullshit. And if you don't, and it's all fun and games until it affects your family. It's all fun and games until it affects your children, your grandchildren, your wife, your sister, your brother, whatever it is. It's all fun and games. And these illegal gangs that have come in, especially from Venezuela, they don't give two shits.
And if you think about it, entirely on years and years of appeals to the emotion to bypass the mind. This has been very carefully orchestrated. I'm thinking about what Jesus said in Matthew 11:15. I always come back to that. Let him who has ears to hear. What's he saying? That no one is as deaf as someone whose heart is not open to the truth. That's the problem. And that's I'm worried about this polarization, this idea that we're split right down the middle. I mean, we are literally nestled ourselves into camps where we're unreachable by facts. And I'm concerned that it's going to continue until it's too late. And this, again, this is the whole notion of propaganda, this constant appeal to emotions, and so that we don't do factual assessments of reality. At some point, Nico, it could be too late. That's what Musk is. Watch his posts. There's a sense of doom in his posts. There's a sense of alarm that I haven't seen in a long time, and they're getting more and more frequent that way. I think he understands what's going on here. We're meeting more and more people for whom facts don't matter, Karen. It just doesn't matter, and I worry that let's ask ourselves, even on the show, is that true of ourselves at times? I mean, when we're not open to the possibility of being wrong, then guess what? Propaganda is more readily able to accomplish its purpose. I'm vulnerable to propaganda.
We all are, brother.
I am. Everybody's vulnerable to that. And I think, come back to totalitarian novels of George Orwell's 1984. I love C.S. Lewis's totalitarian novel called That Hideous Strength. Buy that book on Amazon. It's a great book to read. It'll put a mirror in front of your face and it asks the question, could you be that person that no matter what facts are presented, it doesn't matter? That's scary.
I hate that. That's really scary. No matter what facts are presented, it doesn't matter. Well, look, I'm gonna have to take a point of personal preference to end the show early because I have to go meet with a group of guys. We're gonna do some training today, some combat training with firearms and handguns and AR-15s and long rifles. I do that every once in a while. I've been doing that when I was in DA's office. I did it with our investigators and with law enforcement and different agencies out there. First of all, for our guys, but for myself, I'm a Second Amendment guy in training. I always tell people, don't just carry a gun, train with it, or else carry a hammer. But we're going to do some training today with some military guys and some SEAL high-level guys, and we do a lot of tactical stuff and speed shooting and stuff like that. So I'm going to have to get out of here because I got to get home, get packed. I'm sorry.
Well,
Why do you have all the fun?
Well, you're welcome to go too, but
the vice president of the United States is a gun owner, as you know. So if she shows up,
yes,
say hi for me.
With his shotgun on the
Tim
back
Waltz
of his truck.
apparently is a pheasant hunter.
But let me tell you something like this: we got to stop blaming an object for the problems of the heart. An object, whether it's an AR-15, whether it's high capacity rifle, whether it's a gun or not. I don't care how big, how many capacity the magazine can hold. It's always about the heart. Cain killed Abel with the rock. It's not about the rock. It's about the heart behind the rock. Because back then it was a rock. Today it's a gun. In Europe, it's a knife. There's a lot of knife attacks over there.
Yeah, I don't recall God blaming the rock.
It was never. He didn't get rid of all rocks. He didn't ban rocks, but he did punish the heart behind the rock. And so it's always about that. Now, of course, I believe in responsible gun ownership. I know I get in some debates with my fellow Second Amendment supporters about whether you should have immediate access to a high capacity long rifle versus a handgun, a rifle, or a shotgun, and whether there should be a training required. I get all that. We can debate over the nuances of that. But I believe in training. Don't just own a weapon. Train with it. Practice with it. Make sure that you can handle that weapon under pressure also, because then, your adrenaline, things of this nature. Look, it may be truly alive. I can't tell you how many videos I've studied, circumstances I've studied, either prosecuted or defended, high high intense situations where deadly force was used, defensive third person was used. We study them. We have to study them. What could have been done differently? Adrenaline, nerves, energy, fear, fatigue, lack of being conditioned, lack of training over and over again, muscle memory under pressure. And life, it could be a life or death situation. So train with your weapons. I support these type of situations. So that's it. So I'm going to have to cut it short. I hope you're okay. Any last minute comments?
I just want to say so many people, as we're ending here, are so complimentary to the show. And I mean, thank you so much.
Humbled by that.
MJ Martinez, Michael Staton, they're all just saying, absolutely love you guys. Keep speaking the truth. Thank you so much. Sidebar rocks. And we all have to stay together, stay educated.
For us, it's about stewardship. I'm humbled by that, truly. I mean, we
Awesome.
Like Alamo Talk, we want people that disagree with us to come on and have conversation and listen. And maybe they go, man, these guys make a little bit of sense, but I still can't stand them. Okay, fine. That's fine. But ultimately, there's a set of ideas that's going to win the day.
That's all right.
And if it's good for me, it's got to be good for you and your kids. And so I always caution people, be very careful of the world you help create, because someday you may have to live in it. And I think we're seeing a lot more and more of that every day. And instead of ridiculing someone like, hey, I told you so, say, I'm glad you finally realized it. Come on over. And how can we get more people over? We've got to change hearts and minds if we're going to make a difference in this. And in El Salvador, they got to such a point of pain where they were desperate. And Bukele came in. He did some drastic things that some of them are kind of questionable, but it needed to be done. And then he really gave that country back to the people. And and Scripture says when a righteous man or woman is in charge, the citizens, the people will rejoice. And we need righteousness. We need common sense. We need logic back. We need reason. We need true concern for all Americans. And even the people that don't support me, I say, look, my ideas are going to bless you whether you believe it or not. And then they'll see the fruit of that. I think people are seeing the fruit of those 4 years with Trump, and they're comparing it with the fruit of Biden, and they're going to make a decision. We all have a tough choice to make. I don't think it's tough, but in 30 days. And I hope people,
today.
I hope people make the right. And so encourage people. Educate people. Share this with somebody.
Register to vote.
Thank you for the compliments. We're very humbled by that. God bless you guys. Really wish well in you and your family, because this is really about you. It's not
Really
about
is.
us. It's about us and you. We're all.
That's right.
I think we're all in this
That's
thing
right.
together.
We are.
We really are all in this thing together.
We truly are.
God forbid there's a October 7th, which is coming up. Be very careful. There's been some warnings that
Should be praying for the nation, man.
praying for our nation. If
For
there
true
was
peace.
another October 7th in our country, nobody would give a crap if you're a Republican, Democrat, where you're at with faith. We'd be Americans trying to help each other. I hope we still have that in this country. I think we're seeing glimpses of that we still have this in this country. So I pray for this country every night with my wife. I hope you do as well if you're a person of faith. But regardless, educate people, bring them over, and then encourage people to register to vote and to vote in 30 days. God bless you guys. Have a great weekend.